Alright, I'm talking about the case in Louisiana. What I have is a court date in the middle of October. I think it's before the Halloween, and that's too early. I mean, it's still going to be warm. Alright, there's still going to be some fairly hot days. I mean, we're not talking deadly hot, but we're talking hot. And I don't want to deal with that, especially having to sit around for another month between October and November. So I want to write a continuance. This is a fresh trial, but I think that the events, all the court dates I made from the first trial are relevant, and I want to make mention of those, the dates, make mention of those in my continuance. I want to write a continuance to the judge when my lawyer is finally released, because I can't force my lawyer to write a continuance. He's just refusing, and I think that's an insult to me. So why should I be dealing with somebody who's going to insult me so much? Yeah, he's probably thinking like a judge, but thinking for the judge by just saving him the hassle of having to make a decision. The decision is being made by my lawyer about making a continuance for, I'd say, late December, January, and February. I mean, I'm opening up my schedule wide, and that's one thing I want to look at. And I'm asking that on my notepad here. Are there any laws that take into account my schedule? Okay, the people's schedule. All right, it's not just about the judge and prosecutor's schedule. Okay, there's also it's my schedule as well. Don't they ask you if it works for you? They just give you a date. That's, so I have to ask what laws there are, because that's going to have to be in my writ to the Third Circuit Appeals Court if Judge Barber denies my request for a continuance. But I'll argue that I showed up for what, like 7 or 8 dates. One date was like made 2 days in advance. I mean, less than a week I was notified, and I showed up. It was just a hearing after hearing, and these hearings after hearings for me are just phone conference after phone conference for my lawyer. So what's treated as a hearing for me is treated as a phone conference for my lawyer. So a phone conference that is not recorded, not put on record, and I'm supposed to take my lawyer's word for it on what was said. I mean, I still don't know how Judge Barber waved his hand to deny me the Zoom hearing. And once again, I'm always available for Zoom anytime. They're the ones who are denying it. But I don't know what was said. My lawyer my lawyer has said untrustworthy things, such as, I asked him, did you know that I was sitting on Zoom the whole time you had your hearing? And he's like, nope. He's flat out said no. I mean, I don't know why he would say no. Okay, he probably just wanted to just not have to argue about it, so he just lies and says no, because I don't believe him. We discussed Zoom. We discussed even getting me hooked up, connected, and even Nikita Larisha, or whatever, that lady at the court clerk, city court clerk, she knew that to set up Zoom. Okay, and Judge Barber was aware of it, although you don't see it in writing in the transcripts anywhere. There was I don't even think Lucretia put it in that she asked that, she said that I was on Zoom. He just waves his hand, and that was just his way to avoid that being put on record. Judge Barber didn't want it put on record that he denied me a Zoom hearing back a few months ago, and my lawyer didn't bring it up. He just said I waive my right to be present. It's like Judge Barber accepts that. Well, why don't you just accept then I waive my right to be present at the trial too then? I mean, if you're just going to be waiving rights like this with this craziness without putting anything properly on record. What needs to be put on record though is my request for a continuance to get this pushed back. And then if he denies the continuance, then I'll have to write an appeal, or write a writ. It's not considered an appeal. Any decision that the judge makes, I can write a writ and send that to the appeals courts, and then see how long it takes them to decide. I don't believe there's any time limit. And if it's pushed back to the summertime again, if they want to take their sweet time again making a decision, they took about 6 or 7 months last time, and I'm not going to tell them that it's a rush. You know, if they push it back this summer, then I'll write another continuance to not have to arrive in the summer. This isn't California. You know, you can't just go any time of the year. Yeah, I was looking at this map from a poster on Instagram showing the climate and how it's perfect between 60 and 80 degrees, and you see the whole Pacific coast is just perfect, and then Louisiana is horrid. And I can't sleep in my car during that time. A month. We're looking at a month between the last hearing and trial. I have to sit around natchitocious and wait for that trial, because that's just how they schedule it. That's how other states schedule it. They like to have that last hearing 2 weeks to a month before the trial. So that's something I need to have more in the winter time, where the weather is more tolerable. There's still mosquitoes out and about. I got bit in January. I got bit in February. But if the writ is denied, we'll have to see how that works out. If the writ is denied, about waiting till those 3 months. And now I think December, January, and February are reasonable. I mean, that's a wide space, far out. Yet my lawyer wants to have me convinced that looking further out is a tighter schedule than looking closer to present day. You would think tomorrow is going to have a tighter schedule than 2 months from now, 3 months, 4 months from now. It just the schedule gets more open and more open the further out you get. That's just a natural tendency of how schedules work. And to try to convince me that they're tighter, closer to present day is just, I mean, once again, it's I can't trust arguments from with this premise. So I'm writing a continuance using my history as an argument, and also just my traveling too as a factor. I don't drive a race car. I can't be racing around. I mean, it's, get to court. That's all the judge sees, is getting to court. But there's other factors I got to think about: where to eat and sleep and rest. You know, without other cops in other jurisdictions giving me a hard time, if I race down without really effectively planning where to stop to rest, I could stop in the wrong place and get harassed by a cop, get stressed out, possibly get charges. You know, the stress causes me to be on edge around cops a little bit more, having been in jail, having gotten the threats, gotten put in cuffs multiple times, multiple states, just having to deal with the stress across several states. I mean, I have to take my time. That's the only way I'm able to effectively travel without having any serious disruptions besides the law and at the law's fault too. I'm not speeding. I'm not trespassing on any serious territories, people's private property. I'm not pulling over in the farmland. I'm trying to be as considerate of other people as possible, and I have no complainants. The only complainants are the trolls who are just trying to imagine who the complainants would be, but there's no actual complainants coming forward. The complainants are the police and the prosecutors, and then sometimes even the judges. But yeah, I've showed up several times. I've showed up to to multiple hearings, and then the updates. We had to do updates every 3 months with Judge Owsley on why I'm not paying the $400. And I showed up myself. My lawyers asked if I wanted him to come. I said nope. I'll talk to him myself. And I asked for my voice recorder back, and Judge Owsley said that it's in evidence or something still. And that's something I'm curious about. I want to show up, but I want to show up at a reasonable time to my trial, because it's not just my trial, it's 2 dates. It's not just get there for your trial, it's get there for your hearing, wait a month, and then have your trial. So I'm looking at sitting around for a month, and I want to sit there in comfortable weather, and there's very few days where there's comfortable weather in Louisiana. And there's that time frame that there's a higher chance of more comfortable days, December, January, and February. Anything else outside of that range is going to be a tough time. Plus, just the crime. I hear gunshots going off almost every night. I think it slows down in the winter time. That's the thing. I mean, you could look at data about about crime in the winter compared to the summer. I mean, while I was in jail, I listened to this black guy talk about how his skin was feeling cold and warm at the same time, and he wasn't used to feeling any kind of cold, and the cold of the jail was getting to them. And those jails are extra cold, and I think the cold settles them down. I mean, that's a strategy. It's not just a fault of the jail. It's not a fault at that jail. It's a strategy. You keep the temperatures down, and that calms people down. They're thinking more about trying to keep warm than start fights. If it's hot in there, the fights would be a lot more frequent. I'm sure there's been plenty of experiments. I mean, all the jails I've been in, well, okay, except for the one at Steamboat Springs, Colorado. That was pretty hot in the summertime. I was sweating. I had to take off my shirt, and I was told to put it back on. But yeah, I got a strategy going in. Once my lawyer breaks off, apparently my lawyer could be bound to my case by the judge, which, if he is, we can write a writ about that too. All right, if my lawyer if the Judge Brian Barber decides that my lawyer is bound to my case, we can writ that to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals as well. Any decision he makes. And it sounds like a reasonable decision to me. And I mean, I would write it because my lawyer shouldn't be on my case anymore. So I wouldn't even bother, because my lawyer would want more money for that. So I would write it to make that writ, and that would delay it too. But I mean, if we delay it into the next summer because we're waiting on writs, then I'll have to try to once again push it to the next winter until we can get a good time frame. I don't think early November, late October is a good time frame for me. It's not trial in November. It's hearing in October, wait a month, trial in November. Okay, very inconvenient, and I need it at the right temperature time. Yeah, they may want to ignore temperatures because they're living richly in their nice mansions, living off the blood of the defendants. But I mean, even the mayor is acknowledging that there's a rise in homeless population in Natchitoches. Why is that? They're not asking that. They're just saying that's a concern. While he's also bragging about getting 40+ million here and there with the grants, with the free grant money for various projects, which it sounds like they've been funneling it into other places, not just where they're requesting it directly. Once they get the money, it kind of gets funneled, it sounds like to me. They're not exactly keeping close track. Okay, it's a loose fund. Grants are supposed to be really tightly specific to getting a certain project completed. But in Louisiana, I think it's a little bit more loosely based, and the mayor, I mean, had some organization come in that is their lobbyist right in Washington D.C. There's an organization that was in the last city council meeting bragging about how their grant money is making the city more money, somehow 60 to 1. Earnings. How do you get a grant to make money for you like that? Because that's all the city is relying on. They're using the grant money to invest it to get 60 to 1 investment results. That's something to look into with the city, and I guess I'll be doing that because I'll be going back down at some point, or either that or it's going to be extradition, which I got to find out more about.